We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Nicole Byer, helping you make those rooms flyer. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild! Like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Ooh, fierce! This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip: when it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Arr, fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of the DIY Science Podcast, where we explore the world of DIY science and talk to exciting people of the movement. Back from the jungle, I'm very happy that you're back safe and sound, is Lucy.
Hey, yes, I made it back from Thailand, back in Berlin, enjoying the rest of the summer. So this podcast is about DIY science, and DIY science, the way we think of it, is about the practice and engagement with science from a non-institutional perspective. So that can mean lots of different things. And there's a lot of different kinds of projects and communities and people who do stuff and work in this kind of a way. And we're trying to talk to different people from this world and give you a sense for the diversity of what it could be.
Yeah, so we're doing this podcast, this DIY Science podcast, to connect you with the movement and also the people within the movement or the movements to each other. And we want to give great projects the exposure they deserve and give the activists that associate themselves with DIY science, we want to give them a voice.
Yeah, and today we're really happy to be sitting in the kitchen of Ariane Krause, who is a friend from Berlin. I met you, I think, last year at the Open Source Circular Economy Days. You were doing this really awesome workshop on guerrilla composting with bokashi composting technique, which is super awesome thing and a great way to get to know you as well. So Ariane is part of Kanter, which is the Kollektiv für angepasste Technik, which in English would translate to something like the Collective for Appropriate Technology. She's also a researcher, and I think I will let you explain more about your background, where you come from and what it is, like what you do and why you do what you do.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Thank you for being here in my kitchen. And my name is Ariane. I grew up in the south of Germany in a smaller village, and I moved away when I was 19 because I needed a big distance to be able to develop myself. And then I studied engineering and economics, basically energy engineering and resource economics. And already while I was studying, I was active in a lot of self-organized contexts at our university, so self-organized courses, self-organized seminars and different projects. And that's when I constructed my first toilet. And that's also when I met a lot of people that I was interested in to create or to think about how to create our own after university life and how we can earn our living by ourselves in a self-organized way and in a self-determined way. And that's when we started to think about the collective, because we wanted to work as a group without one of us being the chef or the boss. Yeah. We're all great chefs.
No cooking there.
It's not so much about food.
And that's actually as soon as all of us finished our studies, then Kanter became a name, the collective, and we started to work together.
So when was that? I'm sorry, I missed how long was that ago?
it's difficult because it was such a process, and it was already like we already met as a group while we were studying, but the official beginning is maybe like 2014, 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's when we found the name.
And so from the beginning you were focused on toilets, or was that one of several projects?
That's one of several projects. That just like we met as a group in a student project at the university when we were constructed toilets. So it was clear that the composting toilet is one of our common interests, or one interest that we share. But there were also very different topics like renewable energy, solar energy, wind energy, different kind of water treatment technologies for greywater recycling, supporting groups in constructing their own houses or renovating their own houses. At the beginning, we were also thinking about different kind of making better development cooperation projects.
So like international development context, do you mean by that?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was also on the list at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then step by step, we narrowed it down. But also like we were interested in supporting, in constructing works, like really constructing toilets, constructed wet water plants.
Yeah, water treatment plants.
And but also in education, so environmental and technical education. So, and that's still our aim somehow to find a way to translate and to bring our academic knowledge to communities. And
how do you do that? How do you do the education part of the project before we dive into the construction part of it? Because like I wrote many questions for that, but very excited about construction usually. But like the educational part, how do you do that in the group? Do you have workshops, or do you go to places and teach people, or?
Yeah, so we have very different formats. Usually, I think we only have 2 workshops which we offer by ourselves. Most of the things that we do is, so to say, projects on demand. So people, individuals or groups of people that are interested in more education in a certain topic or in constructing a certain thing, but combined with gaining more knowledge about it. And so that's when they asked Kante if we can make a project together, and then we try to find out what is their specific demand, and then we try to tailor a concept around this, because that's also what we understand with appropriate technology, that it's somehow centered or designed for the users.
Yeah.
And that's also how we design our workshops.
So you said that the impulse for being a collective was to be your own bosses, but you didn't feel that you could achieve this kind of, I want to say the word Schnittstelle, but that's German, so like this interface between knowledge and users from an academic perspective, or at least at that point that wasn't the way you chose to go?
I think that was also, it was somehow already integrated in this, because we knew that we didn't want to work as classic scientists staying at university and just doing like scientific work, or as classic engineers being in our office and do some planning with our computers. So with all the things that we wanted to do, there were also like the direct connection with people was very visible. So I think like the connection to the society was there already.
Cool.
And the wish to really work together with people. Cool. And also from the early beginning, it was one of our common intention that we do not want to like bring technology to people and that they just use this, but that we want to be part of this to because usually technology is like a black box and people just use it, but they don't understand how it works, so they cannot repair it by themselves, and they're somehow dependent or much more dependent on the technology. So that was one of our common aim, to make technology more transparent, and by this create also more responsible consumption of resources, because I think this belongs together.
Cool. So the education part fits neatly into that, I guess, like, kind of capacity building in a way, I suppose. So, yeah.
I don't think we mentioned it yet. So you're based in Berlin, right?
Yep.
And your projects that you do, are they also mostly based in Berlin, or do you like travel to meet people and do workshops with them?
They're mostly in Berlin, but that's also because some of us have children, and it's like we are really based in Berlin, and it will be very complicated to be a workshop nomad and just travel around everywhere. Also, we are very like resource conscious, so we don't want to fly and don't want to spend too much time on traveling. So, and there's like, and Berlin is a big city. There's a lot of like sustainable interest.
We interrupt this program to bring you an important Wayfair message. Wayfair's got style tips for every home. This is Styles McKenzie helping you make those rooms sing. Today's style tip. When it comes to making a statement, treat bold patterns like neutrals. Go wild, like an untamed animal print area rug under a rustic farmhouse table from Wayfair.com. Fierce. This has been your Wayfair style tip to keep those interiors superior.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Ryan Seacrest here. When you have a busy schedule, it's important to maximize your downtime. One of the best ways to do that is by going to ChumbaCasino.com. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino games like spin slots, bingo, and solitaire that you can play for free for a chance to redeem some serious prizes. So hop on to ChumbaCasino.com now and live the Chumba life. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Communities that we can work with. But for example, in September, we will go on a workshop tour through community gardens in Leipzig, Halle, Chemnitz, and Potsdam. And next year, we will probably go to the Ruhrpott area and do some workshops there. Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, that's all very close and easy to reach. So I would like to jump into sort of the heart of what you do, at least, or one of the points that I'm really interested in, and we mentioned it a couple of times now, the toilets and the compost toilets. Maybe you could explain what is a compost toilet. I guess many listeners have not much of an idea what it looks like, what it is. Yeah,
that's a very easy question for me.
I hope I'm not the very first one who asked that question.
Let's start. So it's a toilet that uses no water or only little water. I think that's one of the most important characteristics, because it's a sanitation approach where we try to avoid the pollution of drinking water, which happens all the time when we go to a water toilet and flush down whatever we left there. So that is one of the first characteristics. It doesn't work with water. It's a dry toilet. And the intention of this toilet is that you want to recycle the nutrients that are contained in human feces or urine. So, and it works on the concept of source separation. So that means if we want to create circular economies, one approach that is very helpful for this is the concept of source separation. That means that you collect different flows of materials separately, because then you can treat them very specifically. And this treatment is necessary that we can really recycle the valuables that we want to recycle, like nutrients and carbon, but get rid of the pathogens or the like non-beneficial or harmful substances that can also be there. And that is much more easier if we have like specific flows and we can apply specific treatments. So that's also of the composting toilet. So you collect, there's no water, and you collect urine and feces together or separately, both is possible, with the intention to create recycling of nutrients.
Okay.
And they're called composting toilets then, because most of the time, or very often, the process that is applied as treatment to the feces is composting.
Okay. And is that a permanent installation? So do I imagine that like an old-fashioned, like in German we call it Plumpsklo, with pretty much a hole in the ground where you collect things, or is it something that's mobile, like the festival toilets, like the little boxes?
It depends on the demand, like where you want to use the toilet, but in principle it can be designed in very different ways. So there's already like a bunch of companies on the market that offer composting toilets for rent as a rental service for festivals to substitute the chemical toilets. So, but you can also build it at your own place. You can also use one of these old latrine toilets and use it as a composting toilet. The difference is only that you empty it from time to time and take off the compost, and that the depths, like a pit latrine is usually a hole in the ground, but there's not enough, like the environmental conditions are not favorable for composting. So usually you have a toilet where you go up some stairs and where you collect the feces in a pot or a barrel or also in a chamber, but above the ground, because then composting can take part. So the hole is not as deep as as in a pit latrine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And but there's also systems. That exactly look like toilets we are used to have. So, for example, last week I was in a Swiss research institute, and they work about 1,000 people, and at the whole campus they already have composting toilets inside the buildings, but they look like ceramic toilets that we have here.
And they still don't use any water?
They use little water.
Okay.
Yeah, but they also do recycling of the water.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And they have like urine treatment and feces treatment units in the cellar of the institute, and they use parts of the flows for their scientific experiments, and the other parts they use to produce fertilizer, which they sell at the entrance of the institute.
There's one question I think all listeners want me to ask is like, does it smell? Do you have an open container of feces that smells, or is this a contained system?
Like if you have a system with the pipes and you have a separate container, then it doesn't smell in the toilet. Also, in most of the dry toilets, it doesn't smell inside. The key factor is the dehydration. So the faster the feces dry, the less they smell.
Okay.
So you have to make sure that your ventilation system works. And you can have like a forced ventilation system with ventilator with fans, yes. Or you can have like a ventilation system that basically works with very simple physical principles. For example, having a chimney that is in the sun, and the upper part is colored with black, so that the sunlight reaches this. The air in there gets very hot, so you have an updraft, and then you create an automatic airflow.
Okay.
So these are the key elements. So when a toilet smells, it's first of all a sign that the ventilation system is not well designed.
Okay.
And then you can work on this.
But so if I put this in my garden, there's not really a noticeable smell. Like it's not like like if I would have an open hole that I just do my business in.
No. And then it's mainly, it's because the ventilation is not working, or maybe there was an overuse of misuse of this. But then you can find out what is the problem, and then you can try to have some countermeasures. But that's also what Kante does, for example. So that's why we do a lot of workshops on composting toilets, where we invite people, and there's always like half of the people don't have a composting toilet yet, and half of them they already have one, but they want to improve the operation and the use of their toilet because they face some problems. And then that's very valuable always in workshops, because then we can discuss about these problems together and find out what is the problem and what is a possible solution to this.
So you're also gathering like information about the problems that do arise when these things are like in use in society as well.
Yeah, sure.
You're kind of a hub of information after you've done a number of workshops, I suppose.
Yeah, sure. Because like I'm very interested in this topic, so that means like, I'm always curious and have open eyes and ears and try to remember this.
How long is the history of this kind of technology? Like, I guess long drops and like shitting in a hole has been around for a very long time, but how? Because if you're like constantly developing the technology right now, what's kind of the history of this as a kind of typical infrastructure, or becoming a typical infrastructure?
So maybe I have to, like, I'm not developing the technology. I'm trying to develop the setting around that the technology and will be more established. But the technologies themselves, they are already developed,
right?
In a way, and it's a very, it's a traditional approach actually to have circular economy based toilets or composting toilets where you want to create material cycles. That's very traditional global approach that was applied everywhere. And it was until the late 19th, early 20th centuries when we had recycling toilets also in German towns and settlements. There was a system also in Cologne where they had barrels, or no, it was in Heidelberg, it was called the Heidelberg barrels, until 1910, I think, when they collected feces in houses in these barrels, and then there was a service that they picked this up and went to a composting site. It was only in the early 20th century that the flush toilets were implemented in the sewage system.
Okay.
Huh.
So that's the new technology which we now have to overcome again.
Yeah. Yeah, is this principle also applied in countries like India? I remember seeing a documentary where this is a great opportunity for local communities there that have no sanitary system at all, and they implement these composting toilets and then, as you said, use them for circular economy. Yeah. So it's the same principle.
Gandhi was a very, very big, or let's say sanitation was a big topic for Gandhi. So he said a very provocating sentence once also, where he said that sanitation is more important than...
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Freedom, I think. So he's really said sanitation is the core element for any village or community that you have to solve at the beginning. And he was also thinking about having a sanitation system where we recycle, or where we consider our excreta not as a waste but as resources.
So what happens afterwards, after the toilet is full, the container is full, and then it's composted? Is that similar to what I do in my garden with my plants? I throw them on a big pile and wait half a year or a year, and then I can use this as compost, or is there more to it?
I mean, also in your garden, if you want to use it after half a year, it depends on how you throw it on a pile and what you throw on a pile, that it will actually work and be beneficial compost after half a year.
We're talking to a major compost expert here.
Yeah.
This stuff can get very complex.
I'm doing it in a very naive approach.
I've seen your compost heap.
Yeah. There's pumpkins growing on it, so it can't be that bad.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There are some things to consider. Because we have to be aware that not only nutrients leave our bodies, but also if we are sick, also diseases leave our bodies. And there was some reason why water toilets have been implemented then, and this was a big step in hygiene condition. And we were really able to fight several diseases by implementing this system where we put all the excreta out of the towns at the beginning. And also most of the diseases leave our body with a solid part. So that's where we have to be careful how we treat it. And composting is one approach. The World Health Organization recommends a composting period of at least 2 years to be sure that most of the pathogens are dead. You have to mix it with different other materials. One simplified picture, in the composting, it's a lot of animals that work for us. Small ones, big ones, very small ones. And they don't want to have a mononutrition. They like to have a variation of food. So you should not only feed them feces, but you should mix it with kitchen waste and grass cuttings and everything else that you put on your normal compost should be mixed together. That's very important to make sure that it works. You have to make sure that you have enough earthworms there because they are very important for the process. And you should try that you reach a higher temperature at the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. But then it's pretty much I set up a proper mixture and then I just leave it there for up to 2 years or at least 2 years. Yeah. And then afterwards I have compost. Is it like a fertilizer? Is Is it like soil? What is the end product?
The end product is compost that you can add to your soil.
Okay.
And then inside the soil, you would call it humus.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can grow more vegetables and eat them and then go to the toilet. So it's a cycle, circular economy. Yes. Yeah. So at the moment, you can do this in your garden. Like, how can we apply this at a city level? Like, is it possible to, like, it sounds like there's a lot of different waste streams involved, and the infrastructure that we currently have isn't really geared up for that. But yeah, just an open question.
Technically, this is still challenging to find out how to implement it in houses, but I think it's possible. I don't know how yet, and I'm not the engineer who will work on this, but there's a nice quote from a lady who once participated in a ecological sanitation workshop in Mexico, and she said, like, we can transplant hearts. We flew to the moon. Why can't we design appropriate technologies for toilets and handle our human excreta? This must be technically possible.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of, do we want to put funding into this, and do we want to mobilize enough resources and have enough interest in this topic? Then it's possible. So it's more a political question if it's possible or not than a technological question. Because also in your garden, the situation is that in the moment, composting your excreta, it's not illegal, but it's also not legal. It's neither allowed nor forbidden. There's just the German laws. They don't, like, human excreta doesn't exist in German laws.
Okay.
It doesn't exist. There's only animal excreta, there's pig urine and pig poo, and there's, like, for all the different animals we have this, and then there's sewage sludge. But by principle or by concept, urine and feces independently from water don't exist. So that's why none of the existing regulations or law cover this.
Wow.
That's why it's officially also not allowed to compost your feces.
Yeah. I want to ask, is this rather a risk or a challenge? Not a risk or a challenge, a risk or a chance. Like, is this something that you can use and say, like, nobody told me not to? Or are you constantly endangered that somebody might sue you because it's not allowed to do it?
It's somehow delicate. That's why we are working on this at the moment and really try to find, like, have some progress that it will be allowed. And let's say my aim is in 2 to 3 years latest that we have a positive, or that we can change our laws that it's allowed. Because for private people, you can try to do what you want and try to be under the radar, and people do not recognize, and then it's fine. If they recognize what you do, you have to show that you really know what you do and that you're aware of what you're doing and that you're not harming the community. That's important. But it becomes challenging if you want to implement toilet in public, because then you need the permission of an institution, like a state or like a city institution. And then you're depending on single persons and what their individual perspective or opinion about these toilets is. So if they like it, they will find their ways to give you, like, a Sondergenehmigung, like
an exceptional approval. It's probably not quite the best translation, but yeah.
But if they don't like it, then they don't give you this. So you're depending on the individuals, on their opinions, and it's very exhausting to have this process of having a permission. So that's also why it's still challenging in public to have this.
So there are some public places where compost toilets exist already with this Sondergenehmigung?
And for example, also all these companies that are renting composting toilets for festivals, they have their permission. And actually the Berlin, like the city of Berlin, they want to replace all the water public toilets with composting toilets. So there's now an open application or an open call where you can apply with concepts. But that's for the toilet. And the thing is, we want to have these composting toilets because we want to have a resource, like a reuse of the resources that we collect there. But this is the part which is not covered by the regulations also, because feces and urine don't exist. So that's why if you have a composting business, you do compost. People bring you their own, like their lawn cuttings and everything, and you compost it and you sell compost. Then you have to act in line with the German regulations, and you can only use waste flows that exist officially in these laws. And that's why they cannot use feces and urine. So that's why actually at the moment most of the businesses that are renting composting toilets, they bring the stuff later to a sewage plant.
Okay.
Really?
So they only do like half of the circle.
We don't close the circle yet.
Well,
what we do is that we avoid the chemical part and we avoid the pollution of water. It's still like the first step is done.
Yeah.
Like no more pollution of water, and we don't have to have the chemical from the chemical toilets, but we are not yet there that we can close the circle.
What happens to the waste after it arrives at the sewage plant, though?
They just they put it together in the sewage plant, and then you have like these different steps in the sewage plant. So at the end you have sewage sludge, which is in Germany at the moment mostly like dried, which is a very energy intensive process, and afterwards burned. And then they deposit, they store the ashes, because they hope that in the future we will have an economic method to recover phosphorus from the
the ashes. Piles and piles of
sewage ash. Because before we brought it to agricultural land, that was very common until the 90s in Germany.
It's a Sickerfeld, right, in German?
Or Rieselfelder.
Rieselfelder, exactly. They were like north of Berlin. They were like the famous ones.
They were everywhere. But the problem is because we haven't had the source separation approach. That means that 80% of the phosphorus is from human excreta, like in the sewage sludge. This was part of the sewage sludge, but also all the like water from taps, water from washing machines, but also from all industry and commerce. So also a lot of heavy metals are part of the sewage sludge. That's why where this land where we used sewage sludge as fertilizers are now highly contaminated with heavy metals. So that's why the use of sewage sludge in agriculture is no more an option at the moment.
Okay. Oh, I didn't know that.
And that's why only when we come to the approach of source separation is when we can think about reusing or recycling the nutrients from human excreta again. And actually also if we have a look at the loads of heavy metals, they mainly come from commerce and industry, but the loads of nutrients come from human excreta. So that's why we should remove this part from the sewage sludge and really think about the recycling. And coming back to these businesses that are renting the composting toilets, so at the moment they have to bring it to the sewage sludge because the composting businesses are not allowed. And they say, we don't mind, we would compost your feces, we would compost your shit. This is not a very complicated matter. Like we know how to make a good compost, we know how to reach like hot temperatures, but we risk the allowance to run our business if we do so. So one option when they sometimes get extra permission to do this, like to actually do the composting, then only if they burn the compost afterwards.
What?
Then this is also what the city of Berlin wants to do now in the city. So they want to set up composting toilets in order to save water, and I think also to have some greenwashing elements there.
Totally.
But it's a condition of the application that the compost needs to be burned afterwards. It's
so
not allowed to use it.
That's insane. It's such a valuable product, and it's like capturing carbon as well, and you're just going to burn it and put it all back in.
But that's also because the laws don't allow to use it on agricultural land, and this is why we need to have changes.
So there's like several steps of legislation that are in the way or that are missing. That is not even prohibitive.
Exactly.
It's just like not mentioned. Is Germany special in that respect, or like how do other countries in Europe or in the world handle this? Is like France or Scandinavia or whatever direction you go? Do they have similar issues, or do they have it figured out, or is this just not non-existent there? Do they not care?
There's definitely like different laws. For example, actually, I'm not sure about the details about the Scandinavian laws, for example. But they must be less strict because like composting toilets are much more common in Scandinavia. And they also they have different they have a different distribution of people, like how close they live together. So having a water pipe system and sewage system is so much more expensive. So this was already a very important option. And I also know it like from Tanzania, if you just have to make sure that you don't pollute the soil and then you can use it. And also like composting toilets were very common in Tanzania until the 50s, and then the early development people came and said, oh, you poor people, you don't have toilet, you have to have toilet, and then the pit latrines were built and all the recycling system was destroyed. And maybe one more example from Switzerland, this research institute that I just mentioned. So they developed a fertilizer which is produced from urine. It's called Aurin. So it's a word game with gold. And they have now the permission to use this as a fertilizer for vegetable production.
Okay.
And they received it by the Swiss Institute for Ministry for Environment.
So is that a fundamental change in the law or another exception for that one product, do you think? Oh.
Yeah, it's the Swiss laws, so they have different laws. But we will use this also, like we try to have a good cooperation, and we will also use this as an argument why we are fighting here in Germany to have these changes, so that we really collect this and tell like what is possible in all the other countries. And I think like Germany is really much more strict than, or not strict, just behind contemporary
just
needs.
Working on it still. So apropos fighting,
conservative.
Apropos fighting, so yeah, you've explained what all the problems are. It sounds like you're doing something about it. Yes.
So should I explain what we try to do?
Yeah, what are you up to?
Okay. Yeah, so as we said, for many private people, but also the businesses, one challenge is still that there is no positive law, like no clear rules, and it's difficult to act, and this is what we want to have. So
how to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games, all for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
We're doing several things. One is that we organize ourselves. That's the first step. So what we did last year on the 19th of November, it's the World Toilet Day. So we organized a Scheißkongress, Shit Congress, and we invited everybody that we knew in Germany or Swiss or Austria that are interested in dry toilets to sit together on a table and talk with each other.
On a table?
Like sit together, because we thought this is like the first step. We have to meet each other and talk with each other and try to see how we can work together and what is our common strategy. Because
just as an intermediate question there, how big is that community? Like, is this like 20 people, 100 people that came together?
And for this first Scheißkongress, we were about 40 people.
Okay.
That's a lot of different companies or projects, or
it was companies, collectives, individuals.
Okay.
Politicians.
One politician.
One politician.
Yeah.
Okay. Media.
No,
not yet. Okay.
Not yet. But we also it was
scientists.
Scientists. And scientists. Yes. Yeah, scientists were present.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, so that was one first thing, and also to exchange. Then some more meetings followed where we openly exchanged our experiences with the different bureaucratic offices where we had to have these negotiations that they allow something, and so that we could collect the current state of this practice. And also have a common understanding of what are the challenges that we have to overcome, which are basically two things: human urine and feces need a Abfallschlüsselnummer, and they need to be on the Positivliste der Düngemittelverordnung.
That's very specific.
Yeah, it's very specific.
I want to hear how
German.
you translate these two now.
It's like they need to have a waste number, and they need to be on the positive list of fertilizers.
Okay.
But these are like very simple 2 steps that we have to reach, and for this we have to create a sufficient state of knowledge. No, how do you say it?
Awareness. No.
Stand der Technik und Stand der Wissenschaft und Technik, state of the art.
Yeah.
So we have to create a basis that will be acknowledged as state of the art.
Yeah.
Constructing, operating toilets and treating the residues from dry toilets, because this will act as a basis for politicians to actually go for these changes that we want to have. So that was what we had to define. What we still need, what we already know, but what we still don't know, and how could we achieve this now? And now we are like trying to create projects where we work together and where we collect more data, so that in 1 year or 2 years we will be able to show that the state of the art is now sufficient to actually make these changes. And this works through partnership of practitioners and researchers. And we also will have to include politicians, but we first have to find out who we want to include, so that it really works out.
And design your campaign. So you need your evidence, and then you design like the approach that you're going to take, what specifically you ask for, and who you ask, and how you ask.
So how many people are working on that concrete goal now? Because I imagine many people from the companies, they might be like helpful, but they are not activists. So how many people are like actively pushing this part of it forward, like the part to enact change?
Actually, the people from the businesses, they are also really into this now. Because this is like the future of their business depends if there is a change or not. Because I think it is like they're promoting eco-friendly toilets, and I think for some time it will work, that only like saving water and avoiding the use of chemicals is enough. But they are also like their promotion works with we are closing cycles and we are producing healthy soil, and sooner or later the customers will realize if this is not happened. So their future depends on this very much. So they're very active and very much engaged in this too. So most of the companies, they say at the moment that one person from their team can work at least some hours, sometimes half part-time, on these political processes.
Oh, cool.
Oh, wow. There's no competition between companies around this?
Actually, that was also one intention why we did the Scheißkongress, because we realized we already know these companies. Like the first one was popped up 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and more came, and we realized that they are having the same troubles and finding same or similar solutions to the common problem. But they always thought, or we assumed that they thought, if we find a solution to this is our advantage to the other companies. Like in a very
business kind of
normal
way.
Capitalistic business case, how we all get taught in school, at university, by our parents, or not all, but many of us. So that's also why we thought, if we manage to bring them together, and then they talk to each other, that they may realize if they work together, they will, like the progress will be much faster, and also that they are not in competition to each other. The bigger competitors are outside, that are Dixie or other big players that can easily enter the market and have such a big access to capital that none of these small businesses will ever have.
Right.
So they will also, like, their opportunities to survive will also be better if they are organized and if they don't stay independently. And then actually the sentence at the feedback round for the first Scheißkongress or many of them said, okay, we realized that cooperation is much nicer than competition.
That's nice.
Yeah.
I mean, cool. I guess if it really becomes about creating, like using local resources to create new local products, like compost, then it's a local loop. And you don't really want to be shipping all these things around like across the country. Yeah, either the waste streams or the new products. So
that's like, it's a really regional economy approach. And that was also one outcome of this congress, for example, that the businesses, they were sitting together and they said, okay, we just have to organize who will take part of which region of Germany. Okay. Like, we don't have to compete in the same region. If we get someone asked us to do service at a festival, for example, in Frankfurt, but we are based in Berlin, then we will ask them to ask our colleagues in Frankfurt, because they are there and they are much closer.
Wow.
So we will really try to see who will take care of which regions in Germany.
This is a utopia. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we will see how it will continue. Like, it's still challenging for everybody. Yeah. But there's a nice progress on like also reflecting and being open to each other. Yeah. And we also want to found one like association that will work as like the network for sustainable sanitation.
Cool.
Are there points to get in touch with you? And I don't mean just to learn about you, but to like actively take part in it. How can sort of newcomers enter and help you with that? Like, if we have listeners who are rightfully amazed by the story and want to like push this forward, how can people engage with you or the people in the community? So do you have like meetings, or can people join Kante, for example, or is that something that is, or can they join the workshops, or how can they like help move this forward?
Maybe like we will organize a second Scheiß-Kongress this November. So who would like to, this needs to be organized, and I think there's still possibilities to participate in organizing this. Then you could write an email to ariane@kante.info, kante.info. But you will write down the address also, I think.
All of that will be in the show notes, and we will also repeat it like at the end.
Yeah, so this is possible, participate in organizing the next Scheiß-Kongress. It's not possible to be part of Kante because we are like a collective. We have like 4 women, soon 5, who work together, and really, this is our working environment, so it somehow needs to be stable also. Yeah. But of course, you're welcome to join and visit workshops. But I think like it also depends where you are, and check out your local composting toilet community and find out what how to support them. I think this is
and to good. Add weight to this political process, hopefully. Yeah. So maybe we can. You mentioned in the work that the Scheiß Congress is it called like this network? You call it the Scheiß Congress?
The network is like, it's still in the process of finding a name.
Oh, that's
so
a fun
I can
process.
just use my favorite name at the beginning. For now. It will be somehow Network for Sustainable Sanitation.
Okay. Nancy. Cool. So you said one of the things that you're trying to do is kind of pull everything together to be able to comment on the state of technology, the state of the art, and collaborating with scientists, between practitioners and scientists to do that. So what does that look like?
For example, my background is that I'm a scientist, I'm an engineer, and I also did my PhD. I already did this PhD because for me I didn't want to have the doctor title at the end, but it was a possibility to be part of a project where I was really, really interested in, and really concentrate on this project for 5 years while having a basic income, because I had the opportunity to have a scholarship. So this was my intention why I did my PhD. And I think that's also that's why when it happened also that I have quite a good network of scientists in the field of circular economies, or like recycling technologies, soil science, but also political science and social science. And I already know a lot of professors where I know that we can work together very well. So my personal connection with science is that I now try to utilize this network. and I work partly as a scientist and partly as a Kante or activist, and try to combine this together. Because
how to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to chumbacasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games, all for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
For this case, if politicians have to make changes, they have to refer to the current state of art. And then in our society, it's still that science has the credibility to create the state of the art. And this is much more different to me as a freelancer doing educational work, working on this. It will be more difficult to be recognized, that the same result will be recognized. It's much easier if you do this as a scientist.
So it's kind of maybe a sort of activist, you're an activist scholar or a scholarly activist. These are a couple of terms that I came across lately. So you kind of use a kind of scholarly mode of working or scientific mode of working in the purpose of your activism to some extent, or you connect the two at least.
Or also I want to, like, because I really like being a scientist, but I really want to make science which for me is relevant and important towards a sustainable future, and like establishing circular economy is really one thing that is necessary. Others are also necessary, but this is the one where I feel that I'm with most passion. I'm in with most passion. That's why I decided to work on this. And also because I'm an industrial engineer, and this is a subject where usually they want to create really good project managers. So I realized at the early beginning that people really pay attention to this education and they really take it serious. But I also realized that I don't want to be a project manager at Porsche. And I also realized that not a lot of people are interested in human excreta and toilets and feces and shit. So that's when I decided, I think it was when I was 22, okay, this will be my subject. Because we need a change there, and it needs people that are well recognized, that are that people like also, and that are can bring some progress.
Is there some research outside of academia taking place in that area? So from what I understood so far, it's like mostly you do workshops where you like do the application of it. And you mentioned in Switzerland they do some research at this institute that has these toilets installed. Are there sort of community scientists or DIY scientists or whatever terminology applies that work on the research part of it, and then maybe like in exchange with academia, or independent, or part and part?
Yeah, so there's definitely some places in Germany where they are working on sanitation and on ecological or sustainable sanitation since some time, and this has always been a research practitioner partnership. So, for example, at the Bauhaus Universität in Weimar, they are working on new alternative sanitation systems, and they are working together with companies, like small companies. Also at the university in Hamburg, they are doing research on alternative sanitation, and they work together with small companies. And I think it was also one characteristic of this business, so to say, that for sustainable sanitation technologies, that it's mainly small companies, and that they always still have to do a lot of research and develop things.
So I guess like whether the science happens inside or outside of the institution is not very easy to say. It depends exactly what you think of as science. Is it's all kind of part of a continuum in a way, with like information passing back and forth constantly. Yeah. But there are specific research projects that are being worked on within this 2 to 3 year frame to come up with this body of evidence that you're going to use for the political campaign?
Hopefully, we are still waiting for the approval, but we handed in a project application at the Federal Institute for Science, BMBF, Education and Science, for phosphorus recycling from dry toilet. The application was for phosphorus recycling from sewage sludge. And we explained them quite well why sewage sludge is not the option anymore, and we have to overcome this and come up with a very more innovative and modern approach, which is phosphorus recycling from dry toilets.
I think I've seen that call, because part of my work is to look at these calls and select ones that are related to plant research.
Yeah, it was a big one.
Yeah, and so I've seen that. Cool.
And I think, it really depends. I think our application is good. We have a very good consortium also of very many different disciplines from the scientific perspective, including political science, social science, natural science or engineering science, plant nutrition science, but also small companies or startups, but also federal bodies like Kreiswerke.
It's like the local.
They are run by the different.
We can look this up and put it in the show notes.
We put it in the show notes. What the translation is, but.
Kreiswerke, okay.
Yeah,
but that's a very big consortium.
Yeah, it's a public practitioner politician science partnership.
Oh, that's really cool.
So the consortium is good. I think our approach also, it now still depends if they want to really give a try for the alternative or not.
Yeah.
And that would be for 3 years?
That will be for 3 years. And this the aim of this is really to create the basis for a decision, for governance.
Yeah.
For changing the governance.
Wow.
Cool. Yeah, fingers crossed that it goes through. I think it's really exciting.
This is
definitely one of the better ideas I heard recently.
And we will try to apply for more, so that we try to have 3, 4, 5 applications handed out and then see what's happening.
Yeah.
But at the moment,
do you get the sense that the BMBF is? There's often a lot of, at least in the European funding context, there's often a lot of at least lip service paid to the idea of these kind of partnerships between society and academia, working with civil society or with NGOs. There's definitely a lot of interest in partnerships with companies. Do you get the feeling that they really value that in an application? Or do you think, I don't know, that's an impossible question to answer.
Yeah, it's very difficult, because I also don't know who will, it really depends on the subjects. It depends on individuals who will judge your application.
Yeah.
And it can be so different if they value it or not, because it will depend on the individual mindsets.
Yeah, so you already need to do an awareness campaign with the funding bodies before you...
Yeah. But it's also, you have to have, you really have to explain why this is an option. And that's why we choose a rural area north of Berlin, an area where we can easily explain that the sewage system will not work anymore.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. DigiW. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
And it is the official task of a government to take care of human excreta and to make sure that they don't risk human health with inappropriate handling. That's why and if they want to have if they want to go into the future, they need to have alternative solutions for these areas where technically the sewage system will not work anymore.
How come the sewage system is not working there anymore? Just
if the population density is too low, for example.
Okay. It's just
that's what
this
happens already in rural areas.
Yeah.
Because more and more people are coming to the cities.
Is that this problem where there's not enough water in the pipes, and then the pipes corrode and break, and that's Is that
for
or is that a
example,
different issue?
Yeah, that happens because like we are now using more and more water saving technologies. So the pipes are bigger, designed compared to the flows that we have now. So that's why we have this problems. The others is simply like economic reasons. Like it's simply not economically feasible to run a sewage system plant for less than 10,000 people in an economic feasible way.
So,
but this is this gives us the chance to explain politicians why it's necessary in this specific context, and that there is more regions in Germany where this applies to, and we want to create a solution that helps for this specific setting. But also from this we will gain more experiences to go the next step, which will be the changes in laws, and also to see how to implement it in urban areas maybe.
Yeah.
This is super interdisciplinary. I mean, this is touching on bits of everything.
Yeah.
I wonder if you have any thoughts, like, so this is kind of really starting very much from the position of a societal need, like some critical change that needs to happen, and then like pulling in all of the resources based on that, and including science. So do you think, like, what do you think could be the bigger picture here? Like, how do we, obviously there's more problems in the world than the way that we deal with human waste. Like, do you think that organizations like Cantor, collectives like Cantor, are a good way to kind of, that as a kind of a third space where everything can be integrated, where you can kind of draw from all of these different disciplines, pull them together? Like, do you have any idea like how we can make this like something that we, a way that we address problems in society?
I think what we can learn from the case of like toilets is that contemporarily, like, we often consider resources as waste, and we simply produce too much waste and don't acknowledge the real value of resources. These are two fundamental problems that have global consequences. Like, not recognizing the value of resources is visible by us still exploiting the African continent and taking resources and not paying the real value for this. And in all different things, like not valuing resources is one big problem. And creating too much waste, or like being this waste generation or waste communities. And I think these two things is what we always bring together. In most of the things that we do in Cantor, we try to inspire people to have a critical perspective on the use of resources. Which resources do we use? Why do we use them? Do we need to use as much as we do, or could we maybe like reduce the resource consumption? Where can we implement recycling? So all these elements can be part of different topics. Also, if you talk about solar energy, like, we cannot fulfill our total, like, the energy demand that we have at the moment with solar energy only. Like, we have to also reduce the energy consumption.
Yeah,
because then we would create more waste, like battery waste and so on. But like waste and resources, I think these are two big things.
Finding a way to build systems and processes in society that match those two things better. And I'm just wondering if, like, because it's such an interdisciplinary thing, maybe, like, is it something that we can expect governments to take care of? Is it something that we can expect research institutions to take care of? Or do we? Maybe I'm thinking out loud. Maybe, like, what Cantor is like a space that integrates all of these things together, and is very connected to societal need, to practitioners.
I have this image in my head of like a crystallization point. Like, your work as an activist helps to crystallize like the bigger project from all these different directions on it. Would you say that's true?
I would say Kante is, for me, it's like my family or my safe space. So it's the place where I know that I completely trust people and that we share certain interests, interdisciplinary interests, and with that we can critically reflect what we are doing, why we are doing, what we are interested in. And from there we go out, like we take also the strengths and then we go out into different directions and try to do some action or do some work for some progress.
Yeah, I guess.
But Kante is really like the base, or like I would not say like a think tank in the tradition, like the normal definition, but it also was one association that I just had now.
Yeah, but I guess it's something a lot more human and a lot more, grounded in a way than a think tank.
I would never do scientific work only. Like I'm really happy. I think I can do the scientific work I do in this way because I have Kante, because I have also the space where I can meet my friends and colleagues and we can exchange about what we are doing. And there's always more the political dimension there, but like as a feeling, rather than. And I would like to the other question that you were thinking out loud. Can we believe that politicians will do this or that scientists will do this? I think we cannot wait and hope that they do it, because not everybody, but a lot of people that are still there are very conservatively thinking people. So that means if we want changes, we have to go there. We have to have positions. We have to be scientists at institutions. Also, like to replace them, or also like we don't need to be politicians, but be those who are trying to, like, asking
how to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1, go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2, collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3, play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games, all for free?
Step 4, unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
And if we can work together, and I think we also have to find the way which is good for us, but which will be somehow also inside, or as a corporation inside, to have these changes. Otherwise, I'm not that confident.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thought. It's really about kind of creating a different sort of culture that incorporates all of these things. That integrates all of these things, and bringing society to, like, bringing these like real world needs and this real world groundedness to these institutions, these various different institutions, not just science, but politics and everything.
I really like that. I have one bit that I particularly care about, which is communication. How do you communicate your findings or your ideas or the concepts of compost toilets to, like, the big general public that's always mentioned? Like, how, like, what are the contact points where people who are not researching it or not policymakers get in touch with this topic? Is there any, or? Yeah,
also like in a tailored way, because the public is different. So that's also why I use different means of communication. So I also, like, as a scientist, when I did my PhD thesis, it was important for me not to write down one book, which only few people will read, but to write down scientific publications, and sometimes to use a more understandable language compared to what is accepted in science. So scientists could criticize my publications for not having the very high standard language, but it was more important for me that more people can understand it, because my research was done in an interdisciplinary approach. That means that I cannot use very discipline-specific words, because otherwise people from other disciplines will not understand it. And also they were coming from different countries, and only few were English native speakers. So I don't need to write like a very, very good English. It's enough to have a good English that many people can understand. So that's always why I choose to have very easily write easy understandable papers. And for Kante, we use different, we are doing workshops first of all, because I still think meeting people in real is for me the best option to have to learn together, because I can share some of my experiences. They can ask their questions and we can learn again from the questions, also from the challenges that people report from their toilets and so on. So I really like this workshop. We also do webinars, which is like an online seminar. So we don't have to be at the same places, but we are sitting there like now with our headsets and a microphone, and everybody is like scattered around Germany, for example, and we meet on one certain time at an evening, and then I do a presentation online and people can still ask their questions and we can discuss, but we don't need to travel. And it's also recorded and afterwards online in YouTube.
Ah, cool.
So we do this together with Anstiftung. It's a German foundation supporting open workshops and community gardens. We are also writing like short publications, like fact sheets. There's a fact sheet feces, fact sheet urine, fact sheet sanitation.
Those things don't exist. I don't know what you're talking about.
Like one page with the most important facts.
I would like close my ears, but I have the headphone on, so I can still hear you. It's not efficient.
Yeah, I guess because of the way you work, like good communication is just fundamental to everything that you do. So because it's so interdisciplinary, you don't really need to think about it as an extra add-on necessarily. It's just all embedded in a way.
Yeah, you have to see to who you talk and then decide for the language and use different like talk, write and paint, like these infographics, for example, or presentations. So I also used to use a lot of pictures or infographics, drawings.
Do you have in your network expert in these areas? Because from my experience, this is often lacking somehow, like designers or graphic artists don't really interconnect with activists or researchers. Like I come from a research perspective where like we do our own drawings in PowerPoint and that's the way they look. And so I really value it whenever I have the chance to get like graphic designers or people into the networks. Do you have access to these, or are you looking for people to join in that respect?
I used to work together with my good friend Lucy. She's a designer, so she did most of the infographics for me, which was very, very valuable for both of us, because she was so interested in soil science, but from an citizen science perspective. So it was very nice for her to have these discussions, and for me it was good. And then when she like put everything in a very nice graphic, I would say definitely yes, it's good to have these corporations, and I think more scientists should be aware of this and should there's a big difference if you work together with a designer than doing your own sketches in PowerPoint or Paint or whatever, or even GIMP, but it will still be different. And it's good because you have to communicate what you're doing to the designer. This is the first step where you have to summarize it and bring it on a point, and maybe things that are not understandable will be like, there will be another question from the designer to find out about this. So this is also a clarification process or filtration process in this communication.
It's also the designer or the artist or whoever you work with is really influencing you and the message that together you're creating. Like, you know, it's a partnership in that way, I think, rather than just a translation. But it's in both directions then.
But from my opinion, it's still not valued enough. So that's the problem. Like usually you don't plan a budget in a project proposal for making infographics. So I think this should be done much more often in science, that you plan also budget for science communication, and then you have because they also need to be paid fair.
Yeah,
and this
definitely.
That's the problem. Why usually you ask a friend, can you do this for me? But they need to live from this. Yeah. Designers or artists.
I see it absolutely the same way. I think, not activists, they are often more sensible to this, but researchers in STEM fields, they often don't really acknowledge other expertises and skills outside of it,
or they don't think about the different circumstances of people. They tend to collaborate a lot inside academia with other academics, and just make the assumption that everybody has an income already, and there's often a surprising lack of awareness about that.
They recently in my institute there was a call to design a logo, and this call went out to the PhD students within the organization instead of to like somebody who knows how to design a logo. But it touches on a different topic, but I'm really happy to hear that you also like share the idea that it's important to like get designers or communication scientists or communication designers or anyone in this area like involved in projects like your project or any other like research or citizen science or DIY science project.
Definitely.
Cool. Do you have more questions?
I think I had a very I'm happy. Like I asked everything I needed to ask.
Yeah.
I think.
I sort of don't want this to end. I'm so excited. I really like it.
You're on a bit of a roll now. But I think we should probably like wrap up the conversation. I think there are definitely things we could go on talking about. I'm particularly really inspired to think more about this idea of Cantor being like a support network and the different culture that creates and what that means in this whole context, in this kind of context of interdisciplinarity and activism. I think that's a really interesting angle. Like I think that flows through a lot of the projects and the people that we talk to, that it's much more social, like human. There's a lot of that built into these situations.
Yeah, also this, maybe I can add one thing, because it also still sticks in my mind. Because what I find in this again is that if you think about either or, we don't find a solution. But if you switch the paradigm to as well as, then it works. So what I would say is, if you there's these two positions often, which are either you are part of the system or you're outside the system. So how can we create the revolution from inside the system or outside the system? So there was always this discussion. And what I experience now and what I'm trying to do with my work is to be part inside the system and part outside the system. Yeah. And through this combination, now I experience that I have the feeling, okay, we can really do something. And we can create a change, because I'm not completely in, and this because if you're completely inside, it will also happen that parts like you will be so much more influenced or influenceable by this.
Just other focus, other priorities.
Yeah, and if you're completely outside, there's the possibility that you just create your own bubble.
Yeah,
but that the society or the mainstream will just continue, and there will be no connection in between. So, and this is, I think, Cantor is like outside, and scientists or being in the scientific institution is somehow inside. And through the connection, there's like it's like a synthesis, and something new, can be possible.
That's a really nice wrap up.
Yeah.
So, so how can people get in touch with you now to talk about the things that we discussed now in the podcast, or to get in touch? You already gave like an email address, maybe you can repeat that. And if you are on social media, if you want to plug anything, now is the time.
Yeah, or future upcoming projects even.
Yeah. Okay, so you can visit Cantor at www.cantor.info. And there will be a workshop on composting toilets end of October, beginning of November, probably, where we will explain everything around composting toilet and then do a compost together.
I had strange images in my head, like at that point. No, never mind, carry on.
No, we will just like empty the toilet and make a compost.
It's not about the beginning of the compost process. Sorry, I've really derailed the ending now. Never mind.
No problem.
Continue.
It will be interesting composting toilet workshop.
Yes.
Out of Berlin. You can reach me with email ariane@kante.info. I'm not in that many social networks actually. The only scientific network is ResearchGate. You can find me there, or we have a common collective Instagram account, which is called SheFix Tutorials.
Yes, I follow you. Yes.
I don't yet, but as soon as I put my phone out of airplane mode, I will.
Yeah, but email is probably the best way to reach me.
Okay. So SheFix Tutorials is the project with Anstiftung, is that right? Or
no, we don't have a funding for this yet.
Okay.
SheFix Tutorials SheFix is a political feminist group, and we want to increase the visibility of women or FLTE persons in tech tutorials in YouTube. Because there's such a big dominance of white cis men explaining how technology works, and we want to counteract this.
Very good.
Yeah, absolutely. Now I can't even wait to take my phone out of airplane mode and get in touch.
Cool.
And then there's the Congress at the end of the year, but not the Congress, the Scheiß Congress.
In November. Yeah, it will be announced at our website also, definitely. And who would like to be part in preparing for the Congress can also contact me, of course.
Cool.
Welcome.
Nice. Then
as a scientist, I also have the opportunity to supervise bachelor, master thesis, any kind of academic homework that you have to do and want to do it to a topic that you're interested in around circular economies.
Wow, that would be an amazing opportunity for the right person. Crikey.
Yeah, that's cool that you mentioned that. Good. Then thank you again for sharing your story with us. That's really exciting. And now I do like the little wrap-up part for the podcast. So thank you for listening to this episode of the DIY Science Podcast. If you want to get in touch with us, either Lucy or me, you can find us on Twitter at DIY Sci Podcast. We're not yet on Mastodon, although I hear it's the cool new thing that everybody should be on. We're not yet there. And I don't know if we will, because it's much like the gadget tech community on YouTube or the tutorial community. It's pretty white and male at the moment, at least the people I found on there. So that's for another day. Otherwise, you can send us an email to contact@diysciencepodcast.org, or you can find us on our website, diysciencepodcast.org. If you like this episode, you can subscribe to the podcast anywhere where you listen to podcasts in your favorite podcast player app. We're not yet on Spotify and probably will never be, because I don't like that. And now it only remains me to thank you again for sharing your story, and goodbye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, it is Ryan, and I was on a flight the other day playing one of my favorite social spin slot games on ChumbaCasino.com. I looked over at the person sitting next to me, and you know what they were doing? They were also playing Chumba Casino. Coincidence? I think not. Everybody's loving having fun with it. Chumba Casino is home to hundreds of casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere, even at 30,000 feet. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com to claim your free welcome bonus. That's ChumbaCasino.com and live the Chumba life.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.